Hi there! In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make the radio dimming coat using our pattern. Link in the description. After assembling and cutting out the pattern, it's time to get down to business. Lay your pieces on the fabric using the cutting layout provided in the PDF with the pattern. Trace around each piece, making sure to add a 1 cm seam allowance everywhere. Then, proceed to cut the pieces. Feel free to pin your fabric with its wrong side together to avoid any misalignment. Apply interfacing to the pieces as indicated on the pattern. Then, if you can, overlock the edges of your pieces except for the center front. If you don't have one, a zigzag stitch will suffice. Assemble the pieces, paying close attention to match the notches. I won't linger on the assembly since it's not the part that requires the most documentation. Be sure to adhere to your seam allowance and do the same with the lining. Also, pay attention to the fabric's right and wrong sides, and ensure you're combining the correct pieces. It is not essential, but you can add fusible stay tape. This will help maintain the crease line. After each assembly, press your seams open. If, like me, you're using velvet, I recommend getting a velvet board. This will prevent flattening your velvet with the iron. A more affordable solution is to use another piece of velvet. Also, assemble the sleeves and the sleeves hems, always taking care to match the notches. It is very important to press your seams after each step. It's often a neglected step, yet it will make the assembly much easier. To facilitate the assembly of the shoulder part, I cut into the seam allowances so that my shoulder is nicely rounded. Then I take my piece and I pin it, always matching the notches. Don't hesitate to use lots of pins and take your time. This part can be challenging for beginners and for your sewing machine. Once my shoulder parts are assembled, I use pinking shears to remove materials along my seam. This will create a nice rounded effect on the right side. Pinking shears are very useful for preventing the fabric from fraying. Well, you can use steam to help turn everything out and flatten the seam properly. Now, before assembling the lining to the main fabric, it's time for the shoulder pads. The coat of the radio diamonds has dramatic shoulders. This is precisely the effect we're aiming for here. For this model, we will use 5 shoulder pads per shoulder, making a total of 10 shoulder pads. Here, they were glued and then sewn straight on top of each other, but later we finally sewed them in a stair-step fashion, with the top increasingly outward. But for now, do not assemble the shoulder pads with the coats. It will happen later. Before assembling the lining, you can add white ribbons to the facing. This step is optional since in some versions of the radio diamonds they do not exist. Assemble the jacket with the lining along the center front and the neckline. Take your time. This time, do not press the seam open, but press it towards the lining. You will top stitch it to keep the lining in place later. Notch the tips, remove materials before turning. Be careful not to cut too close to avoid undoing the seam you just made. If you can't get a nice corner on the facing, it's because you haven't removed enough. If you're using a synthetic fabric, burning the end can help prevent it from tearing. We initially used a satin ribbon for the facing, but then we removed it because the result was not great, and we chose an elastin fabric instead. Flatten your seams with an iron. Flatten, 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 flatten. Then, to ensure the lining stays in place, top stitch 1 mm from the seam to secure the seam allowance of the facing from the notch in the center front and on the back neckline. Make sure to avoid the collar lapel. Now match the lining and the jacket at the armhole and make a stay stitch 8 mm away. This will greatly assist you in assembling your sleeve. Take your sleeve and pin it. Then assemble the sleeve at 1 cm. Again, take care to match your notches. Turn your sleeve right side out. Congratulations, the hardest part is over. Insert the shoulder parts from the bottom between the lining and the outer fabric. Take your time to slide them up to the shoulders and position them correctly. Normally, they should stay in place quite well once inserted. Then, secure the shoulder pads with hand stitches at the 4 cardinal points of the shoulder part and align with the seams to hide them. Now it's time to close the journey and the jacket. Close the bottom of the jacket with a turned seam. Before everything, don't forget to cut the angles. Then unstitch to create an opening in the back seam of the lining to turn the coat. Just like before, top stitch 1 mm from the seam through the hole at the bottom. Also, make sure the seam is under the lining side. Take out the right side from the open lining. Then, push out the corner of the center's front well. Close the opening in the lining with a stitch 1 mm away. Now, final pressing, and it's time to admire your beautiful new jacket. Thank you for everything. We hope this video has been helping you, and don't forget to subscribe.